Well, is there proof of social media manipulation by foreign powers, and how concerned should we be? I'm joined now by the Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society, Dr. Alan Mendoza. Thank you so much for coming in on a Sunday morning. Well, those are my questions. Is it provable that foreign hostile powers are influencing, and is it provable that they're influencing to stimulate support for the Palestinian side in the Gaza conflict?
Well, when we talk about proof, it is not 100% cast iron, here is a line going to the Kremlin, out provable. But it is obvious, judging by the tactics we've seen time and time again. This is not the first rodeo, as it were, in this regard. We have seen Russia operating bot factories, i.e. these fake accounts that you just mentioned, that pop up, put out lies, and then spread lies as well by just retweeting things. And you have hundreds of thousands, millions of these accounts out there that are promoting matters. The Chinese have a slightly different approach. They have their whole disinformation factory on one social media outlet called TikTok. TikTok, as you know, is run by a Chinese company. There is a lot of suspicion about how closely it works with the Chinese Communist Party. And it is notable, isn't it, Michael, that you don't see a single bit of criticism of China anywhere on TikTok, but you see plenty of criticism of the West and things that will cause social discord in the West. So there are questions about how the algorithm works there, and obviously the suspicion is that it is favouring a certain side and argument.
So social disruption appears to be one motivation. Tell me what role you think the Palestinian question plays for Russia and for China in manipulating public opinion in the UK.
It's a very important question, and as you've again already suggested, part of it on the Russian front, the Russian idea is this distracts from the horrors of Ukraine. If we can show a lot of fake news in particular about what's going on in Israel-Gaza, that brings everyone into, if you like, into line. We're no longer the moral bad guys, everyone's a bad guy, and you need to take us out of that sort of equation. So you see the Russian side looking very much at how can we distract, but also, and in common with the Chinese side, what they do like doing is fostering social discord, destroying social cohesion. And for them, any issue, any wedge issue that can cause large amounts of consternation, bring people out onto the streets, create division between neighbours, as it were, and harm, if you like, the equilibrium of a country, that is a good thing as far as they're concerned. And that is why they are pushing this issue. They see it as doing, in Russia's case, 2 issues, in China's case, 1 issue, but both help their strategic position vis-à-vis the West.
It's interesting that we're talking in a morning when we're getting these devastating pictures out of Kharkiv of this destruction of this DIY store with a terrible death rate. And maybe it is true that we haven't been as focused on what Russia has been doing in Ukraine in recent times. So social dissent in general, where are the other areas that they will operate, do you think? Or the other areas in which they are already operating, do you think?
You mean on social media or in general?
No, I was thinking of social media, but if you've got other things to say, tell me.
Well, the social media side, like I said, it's about creating the most noise and distraction techniques, basically. So if the more outrageous a statement, the better as far as they're concerned, because it drives outrage politics, emotion. And let's not forget, Michael, the key to this is that social media often in today's world is based on emotional responses. You see a picture, a damage of some kind, you see dead bodies. That's going to cause a powerful emotional response. And often people get caught up, if you like, in that and don't think about what they're seeing and whether it's actually true or not. And I think in this sense, we need to make a distinction between disinformation, which is lies purposely put out by, say, foreign powers, and then misinformation, which is ordinary people being horrified by something, not checking the facts out, and then sharing the disinformation. So in a sense, you're seeing a ripple effect that goes on, not on the social media side. On the other side, though, we're also, of course, seeing espionage techniques of various kinds. We have seen, on the Chinese case, loads of attempts to grab data from the UK. We've seen attacks on MPs' accounts. We've seen attacks on the Electoral Commission. We saw the recent sort of suggestions that China has been active in hacking the military. What is China trying to do with this data? It wants to know things about us. And that's also the problem with social media and beyond on the hacking side. If foreign powers can get hold of important information about you, whether it is stuff you voluntarily give them or stuff they have managed to hack, that gives them an insight into what people here are thinking, what their lives are like, and they can use that to manipulate us.
The student protests have a little bit dropped out of the headlines very recently, but they were on both sides of the Atlantic. They were pretty fearsome over in the United States. Did you track a connection between Russia and China and those demonstrations.
Well, yes, again, it's very interesting. Those have been heavily promoted, it would seem, by the same sorts of Russian and Chinese action that we were talking about earlier. We've seen, obviously, the spread of those, kind of narratives across social media. We have seen also, the sense that, they're doing a moral right in this sense, again, coming out across various different channels. But I think what's interesting about those aspects, particularly in the US, is that a lot of their, if you like, funding, and it was an organised campaign, by the way, it wasn't something that sort of sprang up, spontaneously. A lot of money was being pumped in, this time by liberal leftist, foundations, large foundations. People like George Soros, the Rockefeller foundations, were actually funding a lot of this stuff. And it tells you that there is, sort of, if you like, a homegrown constituency for this sort of activity as much as what other countries can take advantage of. And again, I'm not for a moment suggesting that those groups are in league with Russia and China. They're not. But they are, to use the Marxist phrase, useful idiots for what Russia and China would like to do to us.
Should we worry about the integrity of our election result when we get it? One of the virtues of our country, I suppose, is that we still vote on paper. And I suppose it's much more difficult, actually, to influence the generation of the result if it's on paper rather than electronic. In many other countries, it would be electronic. So if you try to influence an election in this country, is it not by manipulating the result, but by manipulating the campaign?
That is absolutely the case. I mean, there is no way you're going to be able to sort of sneak in loads of vote bundles to change a result. However, you can do lots, can't you, in that campaign to influence things. So on the one hand, you can push out messages, narratives that suit whatever you would like to see the result to be. And you can also, frankly, as we know, we've seen the creation of significant and important deep fakes, false video clips, false audio clips that look and sound very much like the real thing. I mean, what happens in the week before the election, Michael, if one of two things happen? Rishi Sunak is, allegedly caught off camera saying he plans X or Y policy going there. Well, it's very difficult for anyone to react, isn't there, in such short time? And if it's 2 days before an election, that could happen. Or what happens if someone then, does another claim, Keir Starmer pinched my bottom 5 years ago, or something like that? Once again, it beggars belief that we could be in a situation where in the week of the election, with no time for the legitimate reality to emerge, lies can come out and be spread. And these are getting very sophisticated, the deepfakes, and there's great concern in the security services about the potential for disruption in this way.
Yes, and if I understand you correctly, it's not that Russia would want either Keir Starmer or Rishi Sunak to win, one rather than the other. It's just that disruption and the promotion of disbelief in the system is what they're up to.
Absolutely correct. There's no evidence that our foreign, if you like, competitors would like either of the parties in. But there is a sense, I think, that they would like to create as much consternation, as much discord, as much turmoil within society. Anything that could lead to the election result being, if you like, sort of dampened by the idea that it was somehow won by stealth would achieve that.